welcome back to Let's Clone. My name would be Stephen French, and this is part 2 of Snake. In the last part, if you haven't seen it, which you probably need to for this one, we built the system object. The system object builds our grid that Snake can run along. It spawns, at least the first iteration of our food. It spawns the player when we're at the appropriate page or room, which is right now the only one in the game. And yeah, now we're left to create a snake that moves around, updates the cells that it passes over, and that's pretty much it. It just turns this game into Snake. Let's get on it. So starting off the part 2, we're going to build the actual player. You will see that you already have the player. You should already have this sprite, just 32 by 32. Draw it to look however you want. He's set to visible. There's no polymorphism or inheritance going on, so we are kind of clear. I'm going to open up these 3 so we can work on them as we go. We'll open up the line. All right. Now we've already added length equals 0. We added this to the game because we need to be able to see that variable in one of the system's check events. So yeah, that's already there. But going through the list, we need the movement variables, which is going to be a delay, which is getting that number, right now it's set to 10, from system, and that we're going to feed that into our alarm that allows us to move every 10 frames, or later on we'll change that speed. Getting the distance that the snake needs to move, which similar in system, I think we calculated as well. We're moving the width of the sprite, so it moves over one cell. Getting the direction, and getting the previous direction, because in Snake, you lose when you double back into yourself. So if you're going right, and then you just flip left, I don't know if I'm going to be flipped, but if you're going one way and you just flip the other, you're now facing your tail, and you're going to die. So we got to keep in mind that we have a previous direction to ignore. We need the length of the snake, which is the score, and then we need to actually initiate that alarm to tick. So we're going to start off with our movement variables. Here we have movement delay, which we can set it to whatever the system game speed is. Shouldn't you? No, I think it should have been able to predict that for me. We have the movement distance, which we could get from that variable in system, but we can just look at the sprite width. We have a movement direction, which is going to initially be equal to 0, but I don't think it matters because you're not going to be moving, so we're just going to take over from there. And then we have, I call these snake traits. I don't know why. We have, do I need the top? I don't need the top length. No, because I had the length and a top length, but we're keeping that in the system. Then we're going to say trigger movement alarm, which will be alarm 0 is equal to movement delay. And that's really all we need for the create event. The step event. So in the step event, we need to determine our next direction, which again, we need to pay attention to the previous and not turn around completely. We need to check for collisions with the border, because that's going to be an end game state. Restart the game on collision. The nom, how we're eating the food, we need to destroy the current food. We need to increase the score, or our length, and then we need to spawn a new food. Then we need to check if the current score is higher than the system saved high score and update that. Let's dive into it. So we're going to do determine new direction. Why won't you shift? Okay, maybe not. Kill me, Smalls. Alright, so we're going to determine the new direction. We're going to say if previous dir. Did I make a previous dir? Where am I getting that from? Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. So we have the movement direction, and then we have the previous direction. Don't do that. There. So if previous direction, back here, does not equal to, so if anything else does, we can do an if keyboard check key for virtual key right. Then we're going to set our new movement direction to 0. Now, I'm using 0 and 2 where how GameMaker works is looking to the right. Again, I don't know if I'm backwards. Looking to the right is at the angle or degree 0, and it goes anti-clockwise towards the top. So 0, 90, 270, 180, 270. I'm not sure why I'm using two hands, and again, if that's backwards, I'm sorry. To your right is 0. To your left is 180. So I'm trying to check to the right, and I'm setting it to 0, but only if 2 is not the previous direction, meaning that 0 would be here, 1 would be here, 2 would be backwards. I'm just using that 4-point scale because it works. But we have 4 directions to go with, so we have, I'm not moving left, I'm not moving right, or I'm not moving up. In that case, I can move, yeah, I'm not moving down, fine, so I can go up. Here we have, I am not moving to the right, so I can go left. And here we have, I am not moving up, so I can go down. I could comment that out more, but I think it works. Now I need to check for the collision with border. I also need to check for the collision with self. I forgot about that. So here we're going to do collide with self or wall. Call it wall, border, doesn't make a difference. If system.grid, using this same nifty feature of, now we can't just use the snake's XY because that's just using pixel coordinates, and we have like what, 460 or whatever size room. So we need to do 460 divided by move distance, divided by that 32. So we're only checking if he's in a 32 by 32 coordinate within that. Now it would probably be smarter to do a div because that would do the divide and drop the remainder. But since I'm forcing the character to move only in those segments, you'll never get a remainder. I'm never going to be 16 pixels deep because I'll always either be 0, 32, 64, etc. So x divided by move distance, y divided by move distance is equal to -1. Oh, where am I? Nope, yep, sorry. What's the next thing? If it is greater than 0, which would be, I'm hitting myself, I'm hitting another snake, then we're going to do or if system.grid here, same thing, I could have just copy pasted. Move distance, y divided by move distance is equal to -2 because -2 is again our border piece. Alright, so here we're going to okay, I see what I did there. So normally we're going to actually take, when this happens, we're going to go back to the first room. The first room doesn't exist yet, so we're going to do a game restart, just as if we hit the escape key. And then we're going to eat food as our else condition. So else if, because we have checked, let me just get some extra space going. We have checked that we are not hitting an empty, or we are not hitting, fuck. This test will be positive if we are hitting ourselves with a value of greater than 0, or if we're hitting a wall with a value of -2, meaning that it will test positive, or false, rather, if we are on an actual 0, so on an actual empty cell, or if we are hitting a food piece. So we're going to handle the food piece here. So we need to still check if that grid piece is a piece of food. You know what, I'm going to be using that same thing, so I may as well. So checking my current coordinate along the grid, I'm going to set if it's equal to -1, meaning that I am encountering a food piece. Then, yeah, so the first thing to do is, as this thing says, I need to destroy the food. Easiest way to do that would be by taking that grid position, setting it equal to 0, setting it to an empty cell. Then I'm going to take my snake length and add 1 to it, because that was our score. Did I keep it as length? Yeah, because you could write score, points, whatever word works for you there. Cool. Now we need to spawn new food. This is why I put it in a script. That makes it hell easy. So we're just going to call that script, if I can. Script spawn new food. That's going to pick a random spot, spawn it. Then here, update best score. And here we're going to say if length is greater than system dot tops. Now it autofills for me. And we're going to say that well, here I adjusted. I used to adjust the top length that the player had control of, but he doesn't need to see that anymore. So system dot tops is equal to our current length. Bang! 2 events out of 3 done. Now we know that in our create event we are immediately starting alarm with a number of, for now, 10. So after 10 frames, we're going to have listened to whatever our next direction will be. Either, well, technically you couldn't go left because we're starting this as a 0. I guess if you wanted to, you could make this -1 so it wouldn't know what to do and it would just do nothing, or at least wouldn't restrict you. But we're checking all the directions, we're holding on to all of your possible directions, we're going to go into this event, we're going to actually make shit happen. So, reading over the not pseudocode but comment section, I guess, we're going to decrement every grid element in the snake space, anything in the actual game room, excluding the borders and excluding any of the food pieces. If anything is greater than 0, meaning that it has a snake length, every time we move, we're going to decrease all of those numbers by 1. This, as you can read, convinces the player that the snake's body is moving. You'll see that in a second. We're going to set the current grid element to the snake's length, so wherever the snake head is, we're now going to upgrade that piece from a 0 to whatever the top length needs to be. Then we're going to switch statements to move snake into the desired direction. So we're going to use a switch to check if we are going left, right, up, or down, make those changes accordingly. You could do this in a bunch of ways. You don't need to do it as a switch statement. You can do a horizontal and vertical speed, and how I usually do in different games, but it's fine, it works. Then we're going to update the previous direction now to the opposite of our current direction. So if we're going right, we got to say, hey, now next time you move, remember you can't go left. And then we're going to continue the movement along. If you'd like to stab at that, then pause it and see what you do. If not, I'm going to have it covered. So yeah, documenting the snake cell. Reduce all cell values by 1. So we're going to say width. It's a little bit easier to do this in a width statement, so I don't have to keep typing system dot for everything. We're going to loop through the entire grid. So loop for variable xx is equal to 0. Xx is less than I think we have access to. Yep. Width of the grid. Yep. Grid width. Xx plus plus. Create the nested portion of our nested for loop. Variable yy is equal to 0. Yy is less than grid height. I like that GameMaker lets me type it that way. Yy plus plus. Y. Okay. I was wondering where my y's were not yellow y's. And now we're going to say if grid. Again, this is why we didn't want to, or this is why we're doing it in the width statement, so I don't have to do system type in stuff, system dots. So if grid at xxyy is greater than 0, meaning it is at in some way a snake value, then we're going to do grid at this particular position of xxyy. We're going to minus. Easily done. Now, we do need to do one more thing with the grid, but I want more variables to be from the player, so we're going to do it outside of the width statement. So system.grid, and I don't have access to the xx and the yy anymore, so we're going to go back to doing our x divided by move distance, our y divided by move distance. A little bit tedious to do it this way, but it's alright. We're going to set the current position of the snake, the relative cell in the grid, to whatever his current length is. That length goes up by 1, as you saw in the step event, every time you eat a piece of food. So, well, actually, we'll see it in play, and I'll explain it a little more when we get there. Now, coming down to move the snake. Well, move kind of in quotes, because only this, well, no, this is actually the part where we are moving that one object. So never mind. We could actually do this whole game with no objects. You could do everything in the grid and just control wherever the snake head element, maybe give that a number -3 and play with that. We're not going to do that though. We're going to save. This is a switch statement where we are switching the across the move direction. Switch, if you are not familiar, is just running multiple if statements. We're going to do case 0. Just come down here and write break. Now what that would mean is essentially the same thing as typing if move direction is equal to 0, type in this code and then break. Break is just kind of like having everything else be an else if, So that way, if case 0 is true, we're not even going to check if it equals 1 or 2 or 3, what are the other ones that we put in. If it does equal true, we're going to run that code, we're going to hit break, and that's going to pull us all the way out of the switch event. So we're going to do, here I will give us a little bit of a notice of what we're doing with comments. We're going to say x is plus equal to move distance. Again, you could just type in sprite width, or just move by 30, but in case you wanted to scale this down on your own, yeah. So if we want to move to the right, and we are expecting to move to the right, we're going to do that. 1, again, with the anti-clockwise rotation, this is now an up. So we'd want to do a y minus distance, because GameMaker registers y as going positive as you go down. The top of the screen is y0, bottom of the screen is y room height. But now, if we're going number 2, that would be the most left thing we could do. So just along the x, but minus equal. You should not have popped out. Why? I need more space. Good. Another one. The last one would be for 3. In this case, we are going down. We'd want to do a y plus. Good. Now, every 10 frames for now, this code will run. It'll take all of the elements inside of the system grid. It's gonna, anything over the 0, it's gonna reduce it down. The position underneath the snake's head will now be increased up to whatever the length of the snake is. And then after that is done, we're gonna tell the snake to move over to the next desired cell. Now we wanna make sure that we retain that previous direction. It's just gonna be equal to whatever direction we just successfully chose. So now if we chose 1 and we're now going up, previous direction is now equal to 1. So we know that in the next move we can't do 1. We'd have to do something else. Or we can't do the opposite. Is that right? Yeah. It works. I'm confusing myself now that I haven't looked at it in a while. And then we're going to simply continue the cycle. And that's just going to be alarm 0 is equal to movement delay. And that's done. That's done. That's done. This could be gold. We're going to hit play. We're going to see what happens. See if we start playing Snake. Oops. What do we do? Argument 1 incorrect for array expecting a number. Huh? Okay, that was super frustrating. The error was that in my alarm, I forgot to put a pound sign. Debugger doesn't always make sense when it tells you, it doesn't always point you in the right direction. I don't even know what this does, because I know using the pound sign is the accessor, so it's like using the grid get or something like that. But I think I just, instead of setting the grid to accessing that array and then changing the value of that array, I set the array itself to a number. That I think that's what I managed to do somehow by doing this. But yeah, pound sign. Add that there, line 19, if you're following me directly, in the alarm 0 of the player. Now, I haven't clicked play yet, but now let's see if it works. Banging. So, well, oh, hold on. What did I do? Determine the new direction. So if previous direction does not equal 2, if previous direction does not equal 2, if keyboard check, virtual key, oh, haha, sorry. This is why you shouldn't copy paste. Yeah, so I was only checking, yeah, we're gonna go here, if we're going 2, we're going left. That was the one mistake, not my fault, but hard to find. This one was just my stupidity overall. Copy pasting, always problematic. Don't do it. It's bad for you kids. Play! Let's play some goddamn Snake. Alright, my hands are cold. Alright, so now we've got the Snake moving along. We've got the little food pellet, which I made a little smaller on mine. You can play with that if you want. Bam. Look at that. Oh, now we got 2 pieces. Bam. Oh, we got 3 pieces. Now this plays a little bit different than a lot of the Snake. Like, I couldn't find the original one to kind of mimic all of that, but what I did find is that on some of them, when you eat the piece, the length of the snake immediately grows, so it would just add 1 piece to the tail. What we're doing here is that wherever the snake's head is, we're setting that to the current length, which right now is 3. So after we set it, we're then moving the snake, and in the system event, we're reading the grid, in anywhere that is not, or is greater than 0, we're drawing a snake image on. So the first place that we put it down, it's a 3. We then move. The system for the first frame will register that as a 3, it'll draw a snake. For the next frame, it'll register as a 2, draw a snake. Third one as a 1, fourth frame as a 0, no more drawing a snake. So we're just collapsing those iterations down to 0, and it gives the visual effect of it moving. All they are, they're staying in place, they're just snake piece of greater than 0, tile piece if they are 0. It's kind of neat, just kind of tricks you into thinking that it's moving, but only the head object is the one that's moving around the screen. We can come down and you can, oops, if you're better at snake, you can go up as far as you can go. This is why the game is impossible, because you have to fill every single space on the board. I can get into like the 70s. My best was 144 playing at this speed. But I can get into the 70s usually, like most of the time, and then it starts getting pretty problematic. So I'm going to skip ahead just for fun. I'm going to play this and zoom through and see how far we can get. I haven't checked yet. I don't know what'll happen if we just do a game restart. Even though the system variable is persistent, meaning that it'll stay between rooms, or it'll stay alive when everything else is, oh shit. All right, no, see, we're not retaining the best score. That's because we're running system restart instead of reverting back to our first screen, which we don't have yet. So right now the best score is just going to always reset to 0 if you hit a wall or if you consume yourself. Okay, we've got a game of Snake working. And I think that's a good place to stop now that we can actually play Snake. In the next part, we're going to add a start screen that's going to give us the ability to keep our best score saved over however many iterations of the game that we're playing. I'm not doing any proper save state. You could either write this score to a local file. There are plenty of ways to do online leaderboards that are pretty easy to implement, at least with GameMaker 1. If anybody cares to see how that's done, I could make a part 4 where we keep either a local or an online score saved. But by the end of the next part, which will most likely be the final part, again, upon request, is get that first room started, get a bit of, not quite an end screen. What I've done with this one is the first screen to just kind of looks like an empty grid, and it's going to have buttons where we're going to click 3 of them. They're going to change that speed in the system variable to either 5, 10, or 15, being faster or slower. And when you finish the game, it's going to stop the game where it is. It's going to redraw those buttons over the front, so you'll actually see the end state of your game behind the buttons. Then you click on a new button for a new speed, launch that one, and your score should be retained. The score will probably be retained. You could keep them in an array, so you have a score for each of your speeds. I'm not going to do that. So yeah, stick around for part 3 if you want to finish this up. If not, you have made Snake. The only difference is going to be speeds and score retention. But you've made Snake. You know how it works. You know a little bit more about DS grids if you didn't already. Thank you so much for following along. My name is Stephen French. This is Let's Clone.